Hey guys, welcome back, 1776 or Bust. So today we're going to actually be doing the video on the revisit of the IWI Masada. Now, for those of you out there who are considering firearms and maybe getting into firearms, especially ones that are optic capable, there are a tremendous amount of offerings out there right now currently. The IWI Masada, I already had one of these a long time ago, probably going on maybe two and a half, maybe 3 years ago. And it did everything right. And more importantly, I would consider it a very good budget pistol. Now, there are a lot of different firearms right now that are offering this optic capability. This has become the big catchphrase, I think, in the gun community right now, probably for the last 2 years, where everyone wants a gun that does have optic capability. The problem is, because the demand has gone up so high, a lot of these firearms you're going to find are extremely expensive or moderately expensive versus something that's a little bit more affordable for most of you out there. Now, when we talk about some of those firearms, these firearms can range anywhere from the FN 509, which is the MRD. You can go and get a Beretta APX RDO if you can even find those. You can look at a Glock MOS system. Now, keep in mind, these are all polymer striker-fired handguns. You can look at the MR 920 series, and of course, now they have the XR 920 and the ABC 920 and the XYZ 920. So there's all these different models out there. The AREX Delta series is out there as well. And while many of these guns follow that, or I guess you could say meet the needs of people who want an optic ready or an optic capable pistol, you have to understand you're going to be paying a lot of money for them. For example, the MR 920 can run you anywhere from $850 all the way up to $1,000, depending on where you're going, which model you're actually getting. The MOS, you're talking probably right now, I mean, I haven't seen too many of them, but you're probably talking around $750, maybe $800 for that. The MRD is a fairly expensive gun, although they have come down in price a little bit over the past couple of years. I would tell you that they are still kind of commanding anywhere from the $700 mark and up. You now have the entry of the M&P 2.0 series with the optic ready slide, and even those are pretty pricey for an M&P. When you're talking almost $650, $700, depending if you're getting a performance center model or just a regular model. However, there are a couple of options out there that give you the capability that you want at a very reasonable cost. One of the things that I would say regarding the IWI Masada is that this gun in particular actually costs me less than every other firearm that has an optic on it right now. Now, before I purchased this gun, I was actually considering this one or the AREX Delta. The reason why I went with the IWI Masada was, one, because it's made by IWI that has a pretty good track record making military and police type weapons. And then on top of that, it was also the price. I got this on, a website that you guys mostly know. And on that website, this gun cost me $375. And I actually went back into my purchases to see and make sure that I was right on that price. So for $375, I got an OD green frame. I got the optic plates. I've got the optic capability slide. And if I want to use it, I can. If I don't want to use it, I don't have to. And more importantly, I'm getting a quality of gun that I think actually is as good as most of the other higher priced guns out there. One gun in particular, let's say, for example, the Walther PDP or even the VP9 series right now that now has their optic capable slide. Those guns are crazy expensive compared to this. I mean, at $375, you're getting all the plates you need. You're also getting the optic slide. You're getting a very good trigger. And I wouldn't say it's perfect trigger because it is not. However, you're getting a pretty decent trigger and very good ergonomics. Fit and finish is very good. The gun is very solid. There's not a lot of, you can't even hear this thing wiggling or jiggling or anything else because it is really well put together. At the end of the day, the reason, again, why I went with this was because this was the most affordable option out there at the time. I even looked at Gunbroker today. Oops, I said it. And I wound up finding the lowest priced one of these was at $400. However, it was taking bids. So, I mean, you could technically offer them $375 maybe and get it at the same price I got this one. Nonetheless, the IWI Masada, I think, is a very good fit for people who are budget-minded but also want to enter that optic-capable realm with a very good pistol that they could carry if they chose to and could also use it at the range. So I'm going to bring it to the table. I'm going to show you what it looks like, and we'll go from there. So here we go. All right, guys, so to the table we are, and here is the IWI Masada. So this should be short and quick. I mean, I've already done a review on this gun many moons ago, and I don't want to necessarily just repeat everything, but I do want to kind of look at it from a different perspective now that this is the second time I've owned the firearm. First off, everything about the gun is actually really solidly built. There really is nothing to say that this gun is cheap, even though the price would, indicate otherwise. Now, for $375, you would think that you would not get some of the features on a gun like this. I mean, first off, just the slide to frame movement is so reduced. I mean, it's one of the tightest fit guns that I've seen, and you wouldn't suspect that for such a budget type of firearm. Now, I think where some of the budget comes from is really just the lack of, I guess you could say, machining on the gun. And what I mean by that is you don't really see tremendous amount of stuff on the slide. There's no like Masada ablazoned across here. I mean, it's just pretty basic. You have some really minor serrations in the front, and they kind of angle a little bit to the top here. So they're a little bit more aggressive to the top of the slide as opposed to the bottom. Not necessarily on the rear, but definitely on the front. I noticed that. So you do have some front serrations and rear serrations, obviously. And you actually see a little bit of those serrations on the trigger, which are not functional. You're not going to be more tactical because of it, but it does kind of add a little coolness factor to the trigger shoe because you don't really see that often. One of the things that I don't necessarily care for the Masada is the mag release. It is not really overly sprung. I mean, it takes a lot of pressure to be able to get this magazine out of the gun. It is not just a simple push. You really got to push down on that for that gun to eject the magazine, which I would say is pretty much the only negative I've found about this gun from the first review to now. The back straps, there's 3 in number, small, medium, and large, and they do wrap around the entire grip. Now, I did try to see if I could find out what the finish on this gun is, but it is a very matte finish. It doesn't look like there's anything fancy to that as well. However, on their website, they do say that all Masadas, as every IWI, is built to withstand all types of harsh environmental conditions. It is reinforced glass polymer. So, I mean, the polymer is built pretty well. Although, honestly, it doesn't feel that way. It actually feels kind of cheap, comparatively speaking to others. But, other than that, there's not much to complain about. One of the things also is the texturing on the grip. It's okay. It's not great. It's not overly aggressive. But I think they could have done a better job. It's a little bit more aggressive on the front here than on the rear, and definitely on the sides is really very smooth. So overall, the grip texturing also is probably a negative mark on the firearm if you're really into really, really rugged type of finishes. Overall, I mean, the function of the gun is very nice. The trigger is okay. I wouldn't say it's the best trigger ever because it's not, but for $375, it's pretty damn good. One of the things I noticed about the trigger, and one of the things I would say to you, is that there's really not a set wall. What I mean by that is, even though you do come to a wall, there's a springiness to the trigger. And that's something I don't recall from the first one, and maybe something I didn't even talk about. But one of the things I would say is that there is definitely a springiness to the trigger where it's not mushiness, where you kind of feel like metal on metal contact, but you can definitely feel the resistance of the spring, whether it's the trigger return spring or not, I'm not sure, but I can definitely feel that springiness to the trigger. The trigger pull is pretty solid, though. The IWI Masada website talks about it being 6 pounds. I have not seen a 6-pound trigger. I've seen about a 5-pound trigger, slightly, mid 5-pound range, and that's about it. But it has not hit 6 pounds since I bought this gun, and this gun has not been shot yet. So here's the trigger pull. Pretty short take up on the trigger pull. Then that springiness feel, and then a pretty good break. Now, the reset, again, it's again, not super short, not super positive, but it's not bad either. It's like a very comfortable trigger. And that's the weird thing about the Masada that I do remember is that even the trigger doesn't live up to the hype of other guns, like let's say a P10C or something of that sort. The gun itself actually feels pretty good when you're shooting it. The trigger is very responsive. It's a smooth take up. And that springiness does work, I think, in your favor of just really getting a good feel for the trigger. Some of the styling cues you'd kind of like here. You do have this kind of this beveled front here, which is very, very familiar to me regarding the IWI Jericho or the Baby Desert Eagle. And I kind of dig it. I'm not going to lie. It looks pretty cool. You do have the plastic plates here, or the polymer plates that come with the handgun, which I like. I think that's pretty good. Again, the cost probably would have gone up if they would have used aluminum or steel. But again, I got to say the polymer works pretty well. The sights, they're okay. They're average. I'm not getting any co-witnessing done with this sight in particular. So that may have to be adjusted at some point. At least I may do that for myself. I mean, the takedown, again, super easy. You just lock it back. You're going to rotate the slide lever down just like that. The only thing that some people complain about is in order to remove the slide, you can't just pull it off. You got to pull the trigger. And the only reason why you should complain is if you're, not checking your handgun every time it's at home before you decide to clean it. Again, modular frame, cool idea, but it seems like that's all it is, just a cool idea, because there hasn't been anything else continued by IWI regarding new frames, new sizes, that type of stuff. I mean, yes, you can get an OD green, an FDE, and a black model, but I'm not sure that those frames even exist independently from buying the whole gun, which is kind of a bummer. The internals, looks like every other gun. Overall, I got to say, very happy to have this Masada back with me because of the fact that it works really well. It's a comfortable handgun. For $375, guys, you couldn't go wrong on this. Right now, I've seen them at about $400 with some offers being made, but $375, I mean, how can you pass it up? And if you're looking for, some form of a firearm that has modularity, which didn't go anywhere, but also has the ability to use an optic if you choose to, at a reduced cost, you'd be crazy not to do it. So leave some comments down below. Let me know what you think about the Masada, if you have any experience with it, if you'd be willing to pick one up. Because, I mean, honestly, guys, you can't beat the price. And I think that's where I'm going with this whole thing. The price is just too good to pass up. You can pay, $400 more for a gun that might be just as good as this. Not better, not worse, but just as good. So you have to decide. So leave those comments down below. Hope you guys have a great night. Stay safe. And as always, everyone, freedom is never free.